Every city has a place people avoid, not because they know what's inside, but because something inside knows them. In the northern industrial district, hidden behind rusted gates and collapsing walls, there stands a textile mill. It was shut down in 1920 after a series of strange disappearances. The official report blamed accidents, old machinery, unsafe conditions, but the workers had a different story. They said something inside the mill was still working, and even today, more than 100 years later, if you stand outside the factory at night, you can still hear it. The loom, clack, clack, clack. The sound of fabric being woven. But there's only one problem, there's no one inside. The old workers had a name for the mill. They called it the Human Loom because the fabric it produced was unlike anything in the world, soft, strong, and strangely warm. But the color was always the same, deep crimson red. The owners claimed it was a rare dye, a secret formula, but one night a worker saw something. He saw the threads before they reached the loom. They weren't cotton, they weren't silk, they were moving, thin, pulsating like living wings. After that night, the workers began vanishing. One every few weeks, no bodies, no blood, just empty lockers, and the looms never stopped. In fact, they worked faster. By 1920, the mill had lost half its worker, and then one night, the entire night shifted disappeared. 23 people gone. The factory shut down the next morning. The doors were locked, the machines were abandoned, and the building was left to rot. But something inside never stopped working. 10 years ago, a man named Harry took a job. He became the night guard of the abandoned mill. Most people refused the position, but Harry needed the money. He had a family, a teenage son, and bills that didn't care about ghost stories. So he accepted the job, and on his first night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., he heard it clack, 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 the sound of weaving. That was the last night anyone saw Harry. 10 years later, his son has returned. Daniel, he came back to the city for one reason, to find answers, but tonight he doesn't realize something very important. Earlier today, he bought a kurta, a beautiful one, hand woven, deep red threads. The shopkeeper smiled strangely when Daniel chose it, and as he handed over the cloth, he whispered something Daniel didn't understand at the time. This fabric is still alive, and now, as Daniel walks past the abandoned mill, the weaving sound begins again. Clack, 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 and suddenly the threads of his kurta move as if something inside the cloth has recognized him. Some places don't call you, they pull you, and tonight the old mill is pulling Daniel. The waving sound grows louder. Clack, clack, clack. The abandoned factory stands in front of him, windows shattered, walls covered in rust and darkness, but the iron gate is open as if someone just walked inside. Daniel stops. He looks down at his kurta. The threads are trembling slowly, like something inside them is breathing. Daniel steps inside. The air is thick, cold, and strangely wet. The smell hits him instantly, rust and something metallic, blood. The weaving sounds echoes through the massive hall. Clack, clack, clack. The machines around him are dead. Broken looms, collapsed beam, dust covering everything. But the sound is coming from deeper inside, from the main weaving chamber. As Daniel walks deeper into the factory, something strange happens. The threads of his kurta begin tightening. At first, it feels like fabric shrinking, but then he feels something moving under the cloth, tiny movements like worms crawling beneath his skin. Daniel stops walking. He pulls at the sleeve, and that's when he sees it, a thin red thread slowly sinking into his wrist. Like a needle, the cloth is stretching itself. Daniel runs. The sound of the loom grows louder. Clack, clack, clack. He bursts into the main weaving chamber, and suddenly he stops. In the center of the hall, something enormous stands. The loom. But this is no ordinary machine. It's massive, almost alive. The threads feeding into it are not cotton, they are red, wet, and pulsing, thousands of them stretching into the darkness above. And then one thread moves, it tightens and pulls, followed by the other and other, like a nest of winds coming alive. Daniel slowly steps closer. The loom begins moving faster. Clack, clack, clack. The red threads twist in the air, and then a voice emerges from the darkness, weak, broken. My son. Daniel freezes because he knows that voice. He hasn't heard it in 10 years, but he would recognize it anywhere. It's his father, and slowly, from inside the loom, something begins to move. The looms begins to slow down. Clack, clack, clack. Something inside the machine is moving. Daniel steps closer. The red threads stretch into the darkness above, and then he sees it, a body suspended inside the loom. At first, it looks like a mannequin, but then it breathes. Daniel's heart stops because the face is familiar. It's Harry, his father. Harry is barely human anymore. His body is stretched across the loom like part of the machine. His skin has been stitched into the fabric, and the threads are coming from his arms, his chest, his neck. There are not threads, they are veins, living veins. Each time the looms move, it pulls another inch from his body, and Harry whispers weakly, the loom needs blood, it always needs blood. Daniel stumbles backward, the room spins, and suddenly he feels something. The curtain is tightening, The threads begin moving again, sliding under the cloth, searching, hungry. Daniel grabs the fabric and tries to tear it off, but it won't move. It's stuck, bonded to his skin, and then he understands the shopkeeper's word. This fabric is alive. Daniel looks back at the loom. Faith is staring at him. Tears roll down the old man's face, and he whispers something. Run, but it's too late. The threads from the kurta suddenly tighten and sink deeper into Daniel's skin. He screams. Thin red threads begin pulling from inside his arms, his veins. The loom suddenly speed up. Clack, clack, clack. The machine has found a new source. The next morning, the old mill stands silent again. No lights, no movement, just an abandoned building. But inside the weaving chamber, the loom is still working. Two bodies are now trapped within it, Harry and Daniel. Their veins, now part of the fabric. The machine continues weaving, creating something new, a living shroud. And somewhere in the city, a small shopkeeper unlocks his door. He places a new kurta in the window, beautiful, hand woven, deep crimson red, and tonight someone else will buy it because the human loom never stops weaving.